I was 12 years old, sitting cross-legged on the cold concrete floor of my dad's garage, watching him polish his sedan with the same methodical precision he brought to everything in his life. That is when I spotted it tucked behind a stack of storage boxes, a faded photograph of a younger version of him, straddling a Harley-Davidson leather jacket, wild grin, everything he was. Not anymore. I asked him about it, eyes wide with curiosity. He glanced at the photo, then back at his sedan, and said flatly, "That was before I grew up, son. Fast forward 16 years. I am 28 now, standing in my own garage, hands black with grease, staring at the custom motorcycle I just finished building. Every curve of chrome, every stitch of leather poured from my hands and my vision. Dad's voice echoes in my skull like a warning siren. Your motorcycle won't pay the bills." He had no idea how wrong he was about to be proven. Before I take you through what happened next, I would love to know, where are you watching from? Maybe you have got your own story about family doubting your dreams, about being told your passion is just a waste of time. Hit that like button if you have ever been told your passion won't pay, and subscribe because this story is about to take a turn nobody in my family saw coming. Trust me, you will want to hear how this dinner went down, how 5 years of silence shattered in one night, and how I finally made them understand that sometimes the people who doubt you the loudest are the ones who need you the most when their own plans fall apart. Let me take you back to where it all started. Growing up in suburban Denver, Colorado, my childhood was split down the middle like a cracked mirror. On one side was Dylan, my older brother, the golden child, who could do no wrong. 4 years, my senior Dylan excelled at everything that mattered to my father. Chess tournaments, debate team captain, straight-A student, early acceptance to a prestigious business school. He was the son my dad bragged about at barbecues, the one who made Frank, my father, puff his chest out with pride. Then there was me, Chevy. Named after my grandfather's favorite truck, which should have told everyone from the start what kind of kid I would turn out to be. While Dylan buried his nose in textbooks, I was in the backyard taking apart lawnmowers, radios, anything with moving parts. I could not sit still through a math lecture, but I could spend 6 hours straight figuring out why Mrs. Henderson's chainsaw wouldn't start. By 14, I was fixing neighbors' equipment for $20 a job, saving every dollar in a shoebox under my bed. My first motorcycle came when I was 16. A beat-up Yamaha I found listed in the classifieds for $800. The owner said it had not run in 3 years. I bought it with my summer job money from bussing tables at a diner on Colfax Avenue. Rolled it home, spent 2 months in our garage, and got it purring like new. The day I fired up that engine, I felt something click inside me, like finding a language I had always been meant to speak. Dad's reaction was not anger. That would have been easier to handle. It was disappointment, the kind that settles heavy in the air and never quite leaves. He did not yell. Frank never yelled. He lectured about realistic futures and practical careers, and not ending up as a grease monkey living paycheck to paycheck. Mom, Patricia, would sometimes start to defend me with a soft, "He is good with his hands, Frank." But it always ended the same way. "Your father knows best, Chevy." The contrast between Dylan and me became the family narrative. Graduation day crystallized it perfectly. Dylan graduated high school with honors scholarship offers piling up, and Dad bought him a new Honda Accord. Loaded silver, the works. I graduated with decent enough grades, no honors, no scholarships, just a general plan to maybe try community college. Dad took me to lunch at a Denny's and spent an hour explaining why I needed to think seriously about my future. Why following Dylan's example was the smart move. No car. Just a lecture and a disappointed handshake. 5 years later, everything came to a head. I was 23, working a warehouse job, loading trucks, decent pay but mind-numbing work. Dylan had just gotten promoted to senior analyst at his firm. Got engaged to Catherine, a lawyer he met at some corporate networking event. They were the perfect power couple in Dad's eyes. It was a Sunday dinner at my parents' house. Mom had made her pot roast the house, smelled like rosemary and rendered fat. Dylan was showing off Catherine's ring, talking about their timeline for buying a house in Cherry Creek. Dad was beaming, asking questions about mortgage rates and retirement planning. Then Mom asked me almost as an afterthought how things were going at the warehouse. I put down my fork. I had been planning this for weeks, rehearsing the words. I told them I was leaving the warehouse job. I was going to pursue custom motorcycle building full-time. I had been doing it on the side for 2 years. Had a small client base, mostly friends and word-of-mouth referrals, but I believed in it. I could see the path forward. The table went silent. Dad put down his wine glass with careful precision. Dylan stopped mid-sentence about interest rates. Mom's smile froze on her face like she was bracing for impact. What came next was not a fight. It was a dismantling. Dad did not raise his voice. He never needed to. He asked me questions in his accountant voice, the one he used for clients who came to him with terrible financial decisions. How much have you saved? What is your business plan? Have you researched market saturation? Do you understand overhead costs? I tried to answer, stumbling over words, but every response felt inadequate under his cross-examination. Then he leaned back in his chair and delivered the line that would echo in my head for 5 years. Your motorcycle won't pay the bills. Dylan is building a career, building a future, building something real. You are building what exactly? Toys. For middle-aged men having midlife crises. This is not a business, Chevy. This is a hobby. And hobbies do not put food on the table. Dylan smirked into his wine glass. Not obvious enough for Mom to call him out, but I saw it. That little satisfied twist of his mouth that said, see, I was always right to take the safe path. Mom started to say something, but Dad cut her off. I am not trying to be cruel, he said, which is what people always say, right before being exactly that. I am trying to save you from wasting years of your life on a fantasy. You want to throw away steady income for this. Fine. You are an adult. But do not come crying to us when reality hits, and you are 35 broke wondering where it all went wrong. The sound of my fork hitting the plate was louder than I meant it to be. I stood up, chair scraping against hardwood. I did not yell. I did not defend myself. I just looked at each of them. Dylan still smirking. Mom looking guilty. Dad looking resolute. And I walked out. Got on my Yamaha, the same one I had fixed at 16, and rode away. That was the last family dinner I attended for 5 years. The silence that followed was not peaceful. It was heavy, pressurized, the kind that builds in your chest when you cut off people who are supposed to love you unconditionally. But I was done trying to earn approval from someone who would never give it. The next 5 years were the hardest and best of my life. I rented a garage bay in a warehouse district off Brighton Boulevard. 300 square feet. No heat in winter, no AC in summer, but it was mine. I kept the warehouse night shift job for the first year, working 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., then spending my days in that garage bay building bikes. Sleep became optional. Social life became non-existent. I ate ramen noodles so often I started dreaming in sodium. But every bike I finished, every satisfied customer, every 5-star review on my barely functional website, it all felt like oxygen after being underwater. Year 2, I went to the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally in South Dakota. 70,000 bikers, vendors, custom builders from across the country. That is where I met Marcus. He was working a booth for a parts supplier, but we got talking over beers at a dive bar, and I learned he was a mechanical genius who hated working for other people. By the end of the rally, we had shaken hands on a partnership. Marcus became the brother Dylan. Never was. He understood the language of engines and torque and custom fabrication. More than that, he believed in what we were building. He quit his job, moved to Denver, and we doubled down. Our first major client was a veteran named Thomas. He brought us his late father's motorcycle, a 1967 Triumph, that had been sitting in a barn for 20 years. He wanted it restored not just mechanically but emotionally. Every scratch had a story. We spent 3 months on it, and when we rolled it out, Thomas cried. Paid us $3,000 and told everyone he knew. Word spread, slowly at first, then faster. I started an Instagram account posting build progress photos. Riders started following. Local motorcycle magazines did features. We were not getting rich, but we were surviving, and more importantly, we were building something real. The big break came in year 4. A retired NFL linebacker named Jerome contacted us. He had seen our work online, wanted a custom build from scratch, something nobody else had. We spent 5 months on it. A blacked-out beast with hand-tooled leather and a custom paint job that looked like liquid midnight. When we delivered it, Jerome handed us a check for $45,000. I stared at that check for 10 minutes, sitting in my truck in a bank parking lot. $45,000. For doing what I loved, for building something with my hands that someone valued that much. I used it to quit the warehouse job entirely, expand our shop, and hire Marcus full-time, with a real salary. We moved into a bigger space in the Reno Arts District, 1,200 square feet, with proper ventilation and actual heating. We were not just surviving anymore. We were building a legitimate business. That same year, I met Jade at a motorcycle show in Boulder. She was there photographing custom bikes for a magazine spread, and we started talking shop. She was a graphic designer, understood the creative process, understood the obsession with getting every detail right. We went for coffee after the show, talked for 4 hours, and I realized I had not felt this connected to anyone in years. Jade became my anchor. When I doubted myself, when the imposter syndrome crept in, whispering that Dad was right, she was there reminding me of how far I had come. "Your dad's loss for not seeing this," she would say, and mean it. But through all of it, through every success and milestone, there was silence from my family. No calls. No texts. Dylan sent a generic wedding invitation, which I did not attend. Mom called once on my birthday, the conversation stilted, and brief ending with her, saying she hoped I was doing okay. I told her I was. She did not ask details. I did not offer them. I told myself I was fine with it. I had built a new family. Marcus, Jade, the community of riders and clients who appreciated what we created. I did not need validation from people who had written me off. But deep down in the quiet moments between engine noise and metal grinding, I wondered if they ever thought about me, if Dad ever reconsidered his words, if Dylan ever felt a pang of guilt for that smirk at the dinner table. I would find out sooner than I expected. 3 months ago, on a random Saturday afternoon in late summer, everything changed. Jade and I were at a motorcycle expo in Boulder, a big annual event that drew builders and enthusiasts from across the region. We had rented a booth to showcase our latest build, a custom cruiser we had spent 8 months perfecting. The bike sat on the display platform under focused lighting, every inch of chrome catching the light. The price tag read $50,000, not because we were greedy, but because that was what the materials, labor, and artistry were actually worth. Next to it, our banner hung proudly. Maverick Customs bespoke motorcycles with our logo and contact information. I was talking to a potential client about commission timelines when I felt that prickling awareness of being watched. I glanced up and froze. Dylan was standing 30 feet away, surrounded by 3 guys in business casual attire, all holding branded tote bags from some corporate team-building event. He was staring directly at our booth, at the bike, at the price tag, at the banner. His face went through a sequence of expressions: confusion, shock, calculation. Our eyes met across the exhibition hall. For a second, I considered turning away, pretending I had not seen him. But he was already walking over that familiar, confident stride that had always carried him through life, like he owned every room he entered. "Chevy." His voice had that fake, casual tone people use when they are absolutely not casual. "Is this, are you?" He gestured vaguely at everything. "Yeah," I said simply. "This is my shop. Your shop." He was looking at the bike like it was evidence in a trial. "You built this, Marcus and I." "Yeah." Dylan walked around the bike slowly, and I could see him doing mental math, adding up the cost of materials, labor hours, profit margins. He had always been good with numbers. His colleagues hung back, sensing this was personal. "This is incredible," Dylan said, but his tone was off. Not quite admiration, more like reassessment. "The price tag," he pointed, $50,000, starting price, for custom builds. "We have got a 6-month waiting list." 6 months. He repeated it, like he was memorizing it for later. "I had no idea you were," he paused, "this successful." "It has been 5 years, Dylan. A lot can happen in 5 years. Does Dad know about this?" There it was. Not "I am proud of you" or "this is amazing work." Just "does Dad know?" Why would he? I kept my voice neutral. He made it pretty clear he was not interested in my life choices. Dylan shifted his weight, uncomfortable now. "Look, Chevy, that dinner things were said, but you know how Dad is. He just worries." "Right. Worried. That is why nobody called for 5 years. One of Dylan's colleagues called out something about checking out another booth. Dylan waved them off, then turned back to me. "We should talk. Catch up properly. I am working, Dylan. After then. Or this week. Family should not go this long without talking." Something in his eyes made my stomach tighten. That calculating look I remembered from childhood when he was figuring out how to spin something to his advantage. "We will see," I said noncommittally. He reached out for a handshake. The grip lasted a second too long, and he leaned in slightly. "Dad would be surprised to hear about this," he said quietly. "Really surprised." Then he was gone, rejoining his colleagues, but I watched him pull out his phone immediately, already typing. Jade appeared at my elbow. "Who was that, my brother?" She knew enough about my family history to understand. Her face darkened. "What did he want? I do not know yet," I said. "But something tells me I am about to find out." I was right. Over the next 2 weeks I could feel the wheels turning in the background. I knew Dylan had found our social media. I could see the anonymous profile viewing our Instagram, clicking through every post, every client testimonial, every magazine feature we had been in. Our website analytics showed someone spending hours looking at our portfolio, our pricing structure, our completed projects. Then Mom called. First time in over a year. Her voice was strange, careful, like she was reading from a script someone had given her. "Chevy, honey, I heard Dylan ran into you at that motorcycle event." "Yeah, we talked briefly. He showed me your website. The bikes are beautiful. I had no idea you were doing so well." Pause. That loaded pause that meant there was more coming. "Your father and we would love to see you. Have you over for dinner? It has been too long." "Mom, I love you, but why now?" 5 years of silence, and suddenly Dylan sees, I have got a successful business, and everyone wants to talk. "It is not like that," she said, but her voice wobbled. "We miss you. Can you come to dinner this Sunday? Please." I should have said no. Every instinct told me this was a setup, but there was something in Mom's voice, a genuine sadness underneath the carefully chosen words, and I made a mistake. I said yes. The family group chat I had been removed from years ago suddenly re-added me that evening. One new message from Dylan: family dinner Sunday, 6 p.m. We need to talk. Jade read the message over my shoulder. They want something, she said flatly. People do not reconnect after 5 years just to congratulate you. Maybe they genuinely want to reconnect, I said, but I did not believe it. Marcus was more direct. Take me as backup. Or better yet, do not go at all. But I went. Alone. Part of me, the part that was still that 12-year-old kid in the garage, staring at the Harley photo, wanted to believe that maybe they had changed. Maybe success in their language, money, and stability would finally earn me the garage, respect and acceptance I had been denied. Sunday arrived. I rode my bike to their house in Lakewood, the same split-level ranch I had grown up in. Dad's sedan was parked in the driveway, freshly washed. Dylan's Audi was there too. I sat on my bike for a minute, engine idling, giving myself one last chance to turn around. I turned off the engine. Mom answered the door with a hug that lasted a beat too long, like she was apologizing in advance for what was coming. The house smelled exactly the same, that mix of lemon cleaner and whatever candle Mom always kept burning in the living room. We ate in the formal dining room, the one reserved for holidays and special occasions. That should have been my first real warning. Mom had made pot roast again, my childhood favorite. Manipulation or genuine gesture, I could not tell anymore. Conversation during the meal was careful, superficial. Dylan talked about his job, some new project his team was managing. Dad asked me surface-level questions about the business, how many employees we had, where the shop was located. Mom just kept refilling glasses and looking nervous. Nobody mentioned the 5-year silence. Nobody acknowledged the elephant taking up half the table. Dessert was Mom's apple pie. As she cleared the plates, Dylan leaned back in his chair with that same calculating expression from the expo. So he started. "We have been thinking a lot about your success, Chevy. It is really impressive." "Very impressive." Dad joined in, his tone measured. "You have built something substantial. I will admit I did not think it was possible. But you proved me wrong." I waited. There was a but coming. There was always a but. "The thing is," Dylan continued, "family helps family. And right now, we could use your help." There it was, continuing in next response, due to length. Dylan folded his hands on the table, a gesture I remembered from every serious conversation he had ever engineered. "The truth is, Chevy, I made some bad investments last year. The market shifted in ways I did not anticipate. Catherine, we got divorced. It was expensive. Very expensive. And now, I am sitting on about $80,000 in debt." The words landed like stones in still water. I looked at Dad, who was staring at his empty dessert plate. "Dad's retirement fund took a significant hit in the market downturn," Dylan continued. "He has had to delay retirement by at least 3 years. And Mom's car, her Honda, the transmission, is failing. They have been quoted $5,000 for repairs, and the car is not even worth that much." "I see," I said slowly. "And you are telling me this because—" Mom spoke up, her voice small. "We thought maybe since you are doing so well, and we are family, you might be able to help." "Help how specifically?" Dylan did not hesitate. "We need $60,000. $30,000 for my debt, it would keep me from bankruptcy. $30,000 for Mom and Dad, a new car for Mom, some breathing room for Dad's retirement account." $60,000, I repeated. Dad finally looked up. We supported you, your entire childhood, Chevy. Roof over your head, food on the table, everything you needed. This is what family does. When one member succeeds, they help lift the others up. The room felt smaller, suddenly the walls pressing in. Jade's words echoed in my head. They want something. That is a lot of money, I said carefully. You can afford it, Dylan said, and there was an edge in his voice now. I looked at your numbers online. $50,000 bikes, 6-month waiting list. Do the math, Chevy. You are pulling in serious revenue. You looked at the revenue, I said. Did you look at the overhead? What do you mean? I mean, running a business is not just income, it is expenses. We pay $4,000 a month in shop lease. Marcus's salary is $5,000 a month. We have got $50,000 locked into materials and parts for current builds. Insurance, utilities, taxes, equipment, maintenance, tool replacement. The actual take-home after expenses is comfortable, but I am not sitting on piles of cash like you think. But you have that NFL player money, Dylan pressed. Jerome, I looked him up. $45,000 commission. Reinvested into expanding the shop, I said. New equipment, proper ventilation systems, a spray booth for paintwork. That is how businesses grow, Dylan. You reinvest. So you are saying you will not help your family, Dad said, and his voice had that disappointed edge I knew so well. Something shifted in me then. 5 years of building something from nothing. 5 years of proving myself to myself because I could not prove it to them. 5 years of silence and dismissal. And now they wanted my money, not my forgiveness, not reconciliation, just access to what I had earned. But here is what I want to know, Dad, I said, and my voice came out calmer than I felt. The table went quiet. Where were you 5 years ago when I started this? Frank's expression hardened. You said you did not need us. No, I corrected him. You said I was wasting my life. There is a difference. You said my motorcycle would not pay the bills. You told me I was building toys for middle-aged men having crises. You sat at this exact table and dismantled my dream piece by piece, and when I walked out that door, none of you called. Not once. Not when I was eating ramen for 2 months straight to afford parts. Not when I was working 16-hour days. Not when I got my first major commission and wanted to share it with someone. Nobody called. Chevy Mom started, but I was not finished. I did not call when I was scared the business would fail. I did not call when I landed my first client who actually paid real money. I did not call when Marcus and I signed the lease on our current shop and I was terrified we had overextended. I handled it myself because you made it clear, crystal clear, that my path was not valid in this family unless it fit your definition of success. That is not fair, Dylan said. I stood up. Not aggressive, just unsitting. Fair. You want to talk about fair, Dylan? I looked at my brother, really looked at him. The golden child who had everything handed to him and still ended up in debt because he thought his intelligence made him immune to bad decisions. You are my brother, I said. Past tense. If you had called me 2 years ago when Catherine left, when things started falling apart, if you had called just to talk, just to vent, just to connect, I would have helped you. I would have lent you money if you needed it. But you did not call when you needed support. You called when you needed a checkbook. I turned to Dad. And you taught me something important, even if you did not mean to. You taught me that respect is not automatic just because we share blood. It is earned. And you have not earned the right to ask me for anything. You had 5 years to pick up the phone. 5 years to say, maybe I was wrong, maybe your path was valid, maybe I should have supported you instead of tearing you down. But you did not. And now you show up with your hand out because Dylan ran his numbers and decided I was worth reconnecting with. Dad's face was going red. After everything we gave you, food, shelter, education, I cut him off. You gave me a childhood. That was your job as a parent. That is what parents are supposed to do. It is not leverage. It is not something you get to hold over my head for the rest of my life. I do not owe you my success because you fed me as a kid. Mom was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. Chevy, please, we are family. My voice softened looking at her. Mom, I love you. I do. But love does not mean funding bad decisions. Dylan made choices that put him in debt. Dad made investment choices that hurt his retirement. Those are not my emergencies to fix, especially not when I was not even part of this family for 5 years. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. If any of you want a relationship with me, here is what it costs. Not money. Acknowledgement. I looked directly at Frank. Dad, you were wrong. Say it. Say you were wrong about my business, about my choices, about dismissing my dream as worthless. Say it and mean it, and maybe we can start rebuilding something real. The silence stretched out. Dad's jaw worked, but no words came. His pride would not let him say it. Even now, even with proof of my success, he could not admit he had been wrong. "That is what I thought," I said quietly. I walked toward the door. Dylan stood up fast, his chair scraping. "You are really going to abandon your family?" "Over pride." I stopped, hand on the doorknob. "No, Dylan. I am just finishing what you all started 5 years ago. You abandoned me when I needed support. I am just making it official." I opened the door, stepped into the cool evening air. Behind me, I could hear Mom sobbing, Dylan saying something angry, Dad's silence louder than any words. I got on my bike, started the engine. The rumble felt like coming home. I pulled out of the driveway into the street, into the freedom of not owing anyone anything anymore. The wind hit my face as I accelerated, and something released in my chest. It hurt. Cutting ties always hurts, even when they are ties that have been choking you. But underneath the pain was something else. Relief. Peace. The knowledge that I had stood up for myself, set boundaries, refused to be used. I rode for hours that night through Denver streets, up into the foothills, anywhere the road would take me. And with every mile I felt lighter. 2 months have passed since that dinner. The silence from my family has continued, but it feels different now. Before it was a wound that would not heal. Now it is just reality. Dad has not called. Dylan sent one text a week after the dinner saying I was being selfish and would regret burning bridges. I did not respond. Mom called once 3 weeks ago. Her voice was apologetic, sad, but she did not cross Frank. She said she hoped I would reconsider, that family was important, that they still loved me. I told her I loved her too, but that love could not be conditional on how much money I had. She cried and hung up. I am sad about it. I would be lying if I said I was not. But I am not regretful. There is a difference. Jade told me she was proud of me. That it took real strength to walk away from people who only wanted you for what you could give them. Marcus said something similar in his more direct way. Family is who shows up, man. Not who shows up when they need something. The business has kept growing. We were featured in a national motorcycle magazine last month. A 4-page spread showing our process and philosophy. Orders increased. We had to hire another fabricator just to keep up. Last week we closed on the property our shop is in, bought it outright, instead of renting. No more landlords. It is ours. I have also started volunteering with a veterans group, restoring motorcycles for disabled vets free of charge. The parts we buy, the labor we donate. It is not about money. It is about giving back to people who actually sacrifice something real, not people who just feel entitled to what you have built. The community of riders, clients, and friends I have built feels more like family than my blood relatives ever did. These are people who respect what I create, who appreciate the work, who show up, not because they want something, but because they genuinely care. Success tastes different when you build it yourself, when it is not validated by people who doubted you but earned through your own sweat and vision. Every bike that rolls out of Maverick Customs is proof that I was right and Dad was wrong. Not that I need that validation anymore, but it is there, solid and real. I still think about that dinner sometimes. About the moment Dad could have said I was wrong, and chose silence instead. About Dylan's entitlement. About Mom's tears. Part of me wishes it had gone differently. Part of me wishes they had wanted me back, just to have me back, not for my bank account. But wishes do not change reality. And reality is that I am better off without people who measure my worth by what I can do for them. Dad was right about one thing, though. I do not think he meant it the way it turned out. Motorcycles will not pay the bills. They paid for something way more valuable. They paid for my self-respect, my independence, the freedom to build a life on my own terms without needing approval from people who would never give it. I still work on bikes in my shop every day. The smell of oil and metal, the sound of engines coming to life, the satisfaction of seeing a vision become reality, that is my language. That is my calling. The difference now, I am not trying to prove anything to anyone but myself. And that is worth more than any family dinner, any approval, any reconciliation built on conditions ever could be. There are days when I ride past my parents' house not on purpose, just because it is on a route I take sometimes. I do not stop. But I think about that 12-year-old kid in the garage looking at that Harley photo, dreaming of freedom and possibility. I wish I could tell him it is going to be harder than he imagines, lonelier sometimes, but that he is going to make it. He is going to build exactly the life he dreamed of, and it is going to be enough. More than enough. It is going to be everything. So here is my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and your own dreams? Have you ever walked away from people you love because staying meant losing yourself? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and I would love to hear how you handled it. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more real stories about life, family, and finding your own path. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to choose yourself sometimes. Thank you for listening to my story, for giving me space to share what happened, and for being part of this community. I hope wherever you are in your own journey, you find the courage to build something that is truly yours. Something nobody can take away. Something that makes you proud when you look at it. Ride safe out there in whatever way that means for you. And remember, your dreams are valid even when the people who are supposed to support you cannot see it. Until next time.